All right. So, Ken, I've gotten a bunch of work done this week, actually. I've actually gotten some legit work done. Almost getting caught up to where you're at, which is pretty cool. So what I got done in this last week is I actually managed to get all of my window sections put into place. And the masking last time, it worked really well. Like the masking itself worked really well for everything else except for the first two that I did. But it was a learning experience. And as we were worried about the part that I had to use the extra fan, the Tamiya, to bond together when it was ripped, wound up coming off. I was trying to be ginger with it, and so I had to use quite a few shims and everything to kind of get it put in place. I sanded down too much, but other than that, the rest of the window boxes or the window little inserts, I guess we should call them, went in really, really well. Um, this one has a little bit of a gap on either side, over sanded, um, over sanded there too, and then I over sanded there. So I did this one first, and then I did this one, and then I did that one, and then I finally did this one. Yeah, let's focus up, and it actually like went in real nice. And
That one
so
looks like it's in there really well.
yeah, I definitely like now the one thing I kind of noted in the video that is actually going to be coming out tomorrow. Um, I noted that putty work and doing this sort of thing is something that is still kind of like a learning thing for me. I'm still like practicing and getting my technique down. So I took your tip and plunged in from the rear side here to get my lower, the I guess it would be the warp engine crystal or whatever we want to call it. I plunged in from the backside, as one says, and got that taken care of, and it went really well. Overall, like the masking itself, using the little masks as templates, was perfect. Overall, pretty pleased. I just once again a bit of a learning experience for me. So, but yeah, that's what I've gotten done this week, and then my plan is really to get all of my turrets taken care of. And I know that this is going to be a lot of work because we're going to have to sand it down and then rescribe the line and then get our little beads put in place. So that's the name of the game for me coming up this week. How about you, Ken?
Well, Jordan, yeah. So this past week, I managed to get my phaser ball turrets put in. You'll see that I got the um, lines scribed back in between them. So, do you have a scribing
Nice.
tool?
I do not. I'm going to order one, however.
Yeah, this Tamiya one here, really handy. If you buy one, remember, people, there is a back in here with a spare blade.
Nice.
So keep that in mind. But yeah, no, that's what I used. You'll see I managed to putty my around all my windows. I did a basic first round of putty, and if I line this up here, I did fix this big gap I had here.
Awesome.
So by moving this whole thing forward, shimming, that sort of thing. And then, yeah, I got my bottom. Yeah, I don't know what to call this. You can clearly see
Yeah.
it doesn't line up with the uh,
Impulse
impulse
crystal.
crystal, but I still
Yeah.
call it the impulse crystal. So
Yeah.
anyway, I got it installed, and yeah, that's what I got done last week. This week's going
Awesome.
to be a lot easier. I'm mostly, well, I say easier. It's going to be less for people to see. Unfortunately, it's going to be sanding and puttying all around all the windows, across all the front here, and kind of get that as close to perfect as I can. And I'll probably put down the photo etch that goes here, and I'll see if there's any other photo etch that needs to be put on, but I don't think there is. So, oh, I also drilled out a hole in the bottom
Oh yeah.
so that we can pass lights. I called it the. If you look at it, I call it the belly button. Kind of looks like one.
Love it.
And then, oh yeah, you know what? I also did, Jordan. I drilled out all my lights here.
Oh yes. Excellent.
So, and they are everywhere on this ship. I wasn't
They
sure how
really
big
are.
to go, but and with that many lights, um, you know, Don't ask me how many there are, and certainly don't ask Captain Picard, because if you ask Captain Picard, he's always got the same answer. Oh, 4 nights. And there's obviously more than 4.
I love it. I love it so much.
So that's about the excitement that I'm going to be dealing with. I must say, people watching these videos, we edit them heavily, because there'd be hours of content of us just sanding out windows, sanding down these ball turrets and stuff. It's stuff that takes a lot of time. So what you're seeing is the end product, which is hopefully a little bit easier to digest and enjoy.
Exactly. Yeah, that's great. No, that's exactly it. Like it's kind of a deviation from how I normally like will record scale models, as I try to show everything that I'm doing. But in this case, like it's just really difficult to do so because there's just so much like cutting and then sanding and then sanding and then fitting and then sanding, and then it's just kind of like one of those things where like you kind of need to just like do the work and then show the results. So nah, great. I'm glad you put that in there. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, all right. Well, I think we're ready for the next week of the build. I think I'm ready to go. How about you?
Yes, I am. But I must say, everybody, remember, help control the moose population. Get your moose spayed or neutered.
God, I love it. All right, let's get to building, shall we?
All right, let's get at it.
All right. So, as I have gotten pretty used to doing these days, I've been doing a lot of work before I start recording to get ready and get prepped and, practice a little bit while I'm doing some of this work for this model and others, as prep work is becoming a thing that I need to do in order for me to be happy with recording scale models. Obviously, part works and scale models are two completely different style of models, and with that kind of comes the realization, for me at least, that well, they are two different types of models and two different types of shooting. When I'm recording these, I was trying to show as much of the work that I possibly could, as it was requested a lot by my viewers, by you guys. And we want to see the work, we want to see the struggle, which is one of the things that was constantly said to me, which always made me laugh. But and with that said, however, I wasn't able to get much progress done every single week, and some of the builds is kind of wound up dragging out. Now, obviously, this build is going to be really encompassing, and being that I'm doing it with Ken, we're kind of taking our time with it. But that being said, the practice is still going to be there, so I have already done some work, as you guys can see here. So what I've done is I went ahead and sanded off all of the raised phaser turret sections. So as you can see on the top of the saucer section there, and that's what we're going to be working on here right now, is there is a bit of a raised surface right up here. There, it was never raised, like it was just a painting around the outside. There's paint around the outside, and then you have the turrets themselves, and as you can see there, they're not quite even. It just one of the many imperfections, I guess, with this model. And so what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead, and as I did here, go ahead and sand them down. One of the things I'm waiting on to arrive is a panel liner. I need to go ahead and recreate those panel lines in between there, which is totally fine. But went ahead and sanded that down flush, and then I went ahead and drilled out the phaser turrets themselves, and using the beads, as we showed you guys before. Here are the little beads. And some very precise drilling was able to get this put into place. And then from there, which to not skip ahead, that is what we're going to be covering in today's episode, is going to be just simply the process of getting these sanded down and installed, and show you how I went ahead and installed the phaser turrets, and then talk a little bit about the future and what the plan is going to be for them, because I do want to animate a couple of them, as we're going to be using a full Arduino with this, and it's going to be fully customizable. So, and at the end of the episode, we're going to go ahead and cut out and drill all of our little beacon markers, all of our beacons. These are done really well as opposed to other AMT models that I've seen before in the past. So I'm going to go ahead and show you how I went ahead and took care of those. It did wind up leaving the little lip on the end, which is exactly what I was looking for, as you can see here. There's got the little raised portion, and it leaves a little room for my fiber optic to eventually pass through. So we're going to go ahead and take care of that today. So I'm going to go ahead and set this one off to the side. And for sake of clarity for what I'm going to be using today for sanding and drilling and what have you, I do have my Micromark reciprocating sander. And this thing is what's going to be doing, I'd say, about 90% of all the work today on getting all this sanded down. And then I will be using my sandpaper that I have that I've already used a bunch of. And if I have to use some sanding sticks or what have you, but fairly simple. You can use whatever you'd like. I just happen to have one of these reciprocating sanders, and so it makes my life really, really easy. And then for the drilling, we're going to be using a 1 point. Is this no? This is just a 1 millimeter PCB drill bit with a tungsten shank on it. And then from there, I don't even know what size it is. And where is it? Right here. This is the biggest small drill bit that I have here at the end of my pin vise, and it's just slightly too small for the size of our beads, which are going to be these size here. So when we get into drilling out those little holes, we're going to be drilling down about 3/4 of the way, and then using the drill to kind of like burrow out a hole that's just slightly big enough for the beads to go in, and then we'll just be going ahead and fixing them into place with some CA. So what we're going to do is I'm going to go ahead and demonstrate what I'm going to do for the prep for all of our parts here. And then I'm going to go ahead and take care of the first one, and then we'll show you the progress after the second too. So the first thing that I like to do on the turrets here is just to avoid sanding time. I'm going to go ahead and take my single bladed nippers, and I'm just going to go ahead and take those turrets down and to save a little bit of sanding time. I'm probably saving myself like maybe a couple of seconds, but also as well, these little sanding paper blocks that go on the end of these, there isn't much sanding paper, so I have to replace one for each one. And this does save a little bit of time. So now I'm gonna go ahead and zoom in a little bit here. You guys can see what I'm doing. And what I'm simply going to do is just very carefully turn on my sander, apologize for the sound, and then just gonna run over the top. Now, when I'm doing this, I'm being very careful to keep even and level and not push down too hard to melt the plastic. I want to go ahead and take this down in one layer if I can, and just being very careful. So let's go ahead and continue on. And when you happen to have a brand new sanding pad, it happens to go down pretty quick. So now what I'm going to do is just very simply take my Q-tip here, get some of my dust from in between all the panel lines there, and we're all good to go. Excellent. I'm probably going to need a little bit of putty, as I did sand this a little flat. Once again, this is why, and you can see right here, there's a little bit of a line, so I'm going to go ahead and use my putty for that. That's no problem. But that's why I'm saying, like, when I do recording and stuff like that, I want to try to be as conscious of all the work that I'm doing, because I can get a little too excited and rush my work. And the last thing I want to do is, like, rework on models, redo work that I've already done, because that's something that I used to do quite a bit in my modeling journey. So I'm going to go ahead and take care of these other two, and when we come back, I'm going to go ahead and show you how to go ahead and drill these out. I'll be right back. All right, so I went ahead and got all three of those cleaned up. Didn't take too long. Got much better results out of the second two. As you can see there, no extra ridges. So just in the demonstration piece, just a little bit of a ridge that I have to go ahead and putty down a little bit. That is not a big concern. So there it is. All of our little phaser turrets have been removed. Now, what I like to do first for drilling out the holes for the turrets themselves, or the beads, so to say, what I like to do is go ahead and take that same drill bit that I'm going to be using for the beacon lights, for the nav lights and the formation lights. And what I like to do is create a couple of test holes, or pilot holes, for the larger drill bit to go into. So let's go ahead and zoom in a little bit here. And as you can see, we'll go ahead and start here in the middle. And there's just enough of a definition of where that was, and I'm totally fine with just that definition because we are going to be painting over the top of it. But just with that definition of where it is, I'm going to center my drill bit and start drilling a pilot hole. Now the key here is we don't want to go all the way down. We just want to go ahead and start a bit of a hole. Match it up on the other side. Make sure you're being careful. And we're going to go about 3/4 of the way into the plastic without drilling all the way through. And I happen to drill all the way through there. And if you do, it's no big deal. Now let's go ahead and do the same thing over here. And then match up on the other side. There we go. Let's go ahead and zoom out a little bit. There we are. And then we'll go ahead and get our pilot holes put in these two spots right here. Just drilling in very slightly. Not going too crazy. I did manage to go all the way through on that one too. This plastic is not super thick. So do be careful. And that's something to note for when we're doing our light blocking later on. Because we're going to need some extra help. Okay. So now, I'm going to go ahead and remove this drill bit real fast. Let's go ahead and put in whatever size this is. And I'm sorry I don't have the proper size for you guys. And then what I'm going to do, get into the pilot hole, and just kind of slightly turn the drill bit until you get a nice little hole that looks like that. Okay, let's go ahead and do that on the other side. And just kind of rotating the drill bit around because I don't have the proper size. Like the next size up that I have is much too big. So I'm just going to kind of rotate around a little bit. And then create those two holes. Go ahead and do this for the same things over here for the other two. And you don't want to go all the way in. Once again, I'm just trying to get about 3/4 of the way down. And the ones where you did go all the way in, it's no big deal. You'll just need a little bit more putty to go ahead and get that sealed up because it could be a light leak issue later on. Okay. I'm going to be using light boxes for the inside of this model because we're going to be lighting these up in sections, all the window sections. So not going to worry too much about light leak, but it can happen. Okay. All right. So that is what our phaser turrets now look like after being sanded down and then drilled into place. Now what we're going to do, and this is what I found, how effective this is for you guys, I'm not sure. But what I'm going to do is just one at a time. Let me go ahead and demonstrate the first one here. Is what I like to do is get a couple of these, each turret's worth, onto the end of this drill bit, running the bead through. So it's just sitting just like this. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and put a couple of them on there. Set this down so I don't make a mess. Dropping these would not be fun. God, I imagine I'd be finding beads until the day I move. And I'm sure that the people that would move in here afterwards also find those beads. All right. So I went ahead and put a couple beads on the end down there. Now what I like to do is go ahead and just feed my CA directly in. Of course, my CA is all dried out inside the tip there. No worries. Go ahead and get a new applicator. Excellent. Go get some glue down into its slots. Just enough. So it's not super crazy. And of course, the first one pops right out. Drop that in. And using the drill bit, drop it and push it down into place. Now I want the bead part where you pass the string or whatever through, to be pointing straight up, just like so. Now, what we're going to, I alluded to at the beginning of the episode, what we're going to be doing to animate these is I will drill through after we get all of the light blocking and all of those things done. Push those down into place now that's had a chance to set. Let's go ahead and get two more as we're talking about this. What I'm going to do is I'm going to drill through and run fiber optics, two small fiber optics through each one of the ones on the top of the saucer. And then not on the bottom. We're just going to do this on the top because, you know, we're not going to be looking at the bottom of the model too often. We're going to be paying attention to all details on it. But for the animation, what I'm going to do is using the Arduino is having the phaser turrets. You know, you'll see the little red lights kind of flashing back and forth to animate a phaser firing sequence, which is going to be done with the super phasers and the photon torpedo launcher as well. So there's going to be a lot of cool little things to be done. But it's just extra work that I've just kind of given myself over time as I've thought about what we're going to do here as the build progresses. Okay. Get that down into its spot. And there we go. Excellent. Now let's go ahead and take care of the last one here. All right. So there are our phaser turrets sanded down and replaced on both the top and bottom. Excellent. Let's go ahead and move on to our nav and beacon lights and finishing up this episode for another week of our buddy build. All right, so very simply to install our, well, I guess not install, but go ahead and get prepped up for our nav lights and our formation lights, we need to go ahead and do some drilling and prep. So what I like to do first is we have the two on the back here, so 1 and 2, and then 2 on either side, and then 1 on the very front. And as you guys can see there, set it up in camera, as you can see that it has basically it's a nipple. You have the raised portion, and then you have a further raised portion on the top. What I'm going to go ahead and do with my single bladed nippers is go ahead and take off that top piece, but not the lower portion of it. So I want to keep very flat and even when I'm doing this. And if I don't quite take it all down, make sure you get it down. And there we go. Those are all cleaned up. We're good to go with our single bladed nippers. Let's go ahead and get them off the table. I want to stab myself. And then very simply, I'm just going to go ahead and take my 1mm drill bit and drill through each one of our holes. Now we're going to be using a 1mm fiber optic. And we're going to be using the proper, strobe and all of the different things that we see. I'm going to keep this as screen accurate as possible, but also Star Trek accurate as well, stuff that they didn't wind up thinking about early on as they were creating the series and the movies and Star Trek 2 is when it really kind of like stuff started becoming like really firm canon when it came to certain things. And so, especially like the technology side of things. So, got 2 more here to do. Excellent. What I like to do is kind of drill back and forth to clean up the ends. So get a nice perfect little hole like that. And let's go ahead and take care of our last one here. All right, so there it is. Very simply, as crazy as it is, that was actually, for, I don't know, this took me about an hour's worth of work, but it took forever to kind of get all done and accomplished. So there it is. We have our phaser turrets on the top and bottom holes all taken care of. And we've also drilled out all of our nav light and formation light beacons as well. So next episode, we're going to go ahead and continue on with modifying our saucer section. And it's likely that the putty is about to come out because I'm starting to see some things that are just irritating the hell out of me. And I want to go ahead and get them done. So there it is. That's what I got for you today. Make sure you guys check out Ken's video as well. As we're both releasing these on the weekly, I went ahead and make sure to link his channel down below. Ken's Hobby Bench. His smooth, dulcet tones will definitely bring some entertainment for you as you watch us do the same thing over and over again. So there it is, my friends. That's what I got for you today, and I just want to say thank you. I know that there was a million things y'all could have done today. Instead, you spent a couple minutes with me watching me build a model, and I think that's pretty damn cool. If you guys have any questions or comments, tips, tricks, please leave them down below. Like to support the channel, please like and subscribe. And my friends, until we see each other again, I hope you all have a wonderful day in this beautiful world where we happen to be. And just remember, my friends, that the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few. Sometimes the